This video is about the humans that elves are almost certainly based on. Let's look at the play on words first. Elves, right? El-vis. And el, like mentally ill. Vis, to vie with the Lord. Elvira. So what are elves said to be? They have magical powers, supernatural beauty, ambivalent to everyday people, either helping or hindering them. This is not only from, kind of popular culture and stories and fairy tales and movies, but this is also found in old Germanic texts, with the Old English Anglo-Saxon texts being the first mention of them. That's how deep this goes, right? Old English. So they were said to be white beings in Germanic texts, and there's evidence that they were actually referring to white people, and there's evidence that they were referring to people who have a kind of white energy. And I'd say the truth is both. Old Middle English associate elves with the Norse mythology, the gods causing illness with magic, beauty, and seduction. Including of Freya, right? Freya's Day, Friday, when the parties begin, right, in popular culture. Okay, so think about Nazis, psychiatry, coined in Germany, right? These are Germanic texts. Think about Illuminati in Germany, Bavaria. Think about the werewolf headquarters during World War II. That's what it was called, the Nazis, the werewolf den in Germany. Okay, so they were said to cause illness with magic, beauty, and seduction. Illness in livestock and people. They were eventually, at one point, they seemed to stop using the word elf for the word zwerk, which means dwarf, and holdra, which means hidden being, right? Hold ra, hold them down, hold them back, etc. Right? Hidden being. Old English, and that also goes back to Amen, right? The hidden, and Jupiter Amen, right? And Amen Ra, and so on. Old English. Anglo-Saxon first mention, I said that already. The medical texts said that these people would inflict people with sharp internal pains and mental illness. You can't make this stuff up, right? Psychiatry is coined by German Johann Christian Rehl in 1808. And before that, we have medical texts saying that elves have caused these people mental illness, a certain amount of people, right? And of course, Germans in popular culture, because of Hitler and Nazis, they're seen as kind of, high-strung, mentally ill people, whether this is true or not. Certainly, I'd say there's some truth to that. It has to do with culture clash, if for nothing else. All right, so they're mentioned in early modern Scottish witchcraft. Okay, think about the Scottish and the Irish and the leprechauns. We'll get to that. They're said to have lived invisibly alongside people. Okay, so when we go back to the medical texts, right, the most famous is metrical charm, Weo Farstis. It means against a stabbing pain, right? A medical charm. A 10th century compilation, Laknunga, most in 10th century Ball's Leech Book and Leech Book 3. So most of the mentions are in these texts, these medical texts. Okay, and they continue to appear in Middle English medical texts. So you see that these are in old textbooks, and they continue to appear in Middle English medical texts. So people in Scottish witchcraft trials believed elves had been given them healing powers, and people, livestock made sick by elves. What we seem to see here is that elves themselves, they're not saying you're an elf. They're saying these people are guilty of having power they're not supposed to have, right? Medical power. Knowledge, right? Think about how Europeans were kept illiterate. People in general in various cultures were kept illiterate. They were kept down. They were kept in the dark ages, and so on. So there's this group of people that are labeled elves, just like we have these occultists and people that see themselves as magicians and fairies and nymphs and all kinds of things, vampires and the werewolf group and the Church of Satan and so on. People who see themselves as magicians and wizards as important. Right? The illusion of being these things. Disassociation, gender identity disorder, right? People with a false, with delusions of grandeur, accusing people who live in reality, who are based on fact, with 4-year, $4,000 challenges and 20 years of training, of exaggerating their worth. How backwards is that? A black brain surgeon's son, and he couldn't possibly be the top martial artist. How backwards is that? When you're the guys who think you're nymphs and elves and you think you're women and shit. You Caitlyn Jenner motherfuckers. Anyway, so they were associated with succubah, like supernatural beings called mares. Mare, called the mare. We'll get into nightmares in a second. They're said to have magical weapons. Magic denoted by sidin, sitsa, Old English cognate, and Old Norse seor. Okay? Magic denoted by these things. Paralleled in Old Irish Surglige con Culain. Don't quite know what that is. As you can see, there's a lot of research associated with this. I'm just one guy putting it together for you. I've made some mistakes. Don't let that confuse you. My ideas are accurate. My key points are correct. By 14th century, also associated with arcane practice of alchemy. Okay? Think about Amen, stirring nun, usurping Shu's life-giving powers, right? Creation powers. Shu being the atmosphere, and so on. Elf shot refers to diseases by projectiles, Neolithic arrowheads, healing rituals. There's connections here to Isis, right? Cupid, Isis, love, right? And snake poison dipped arrowheads in Egypt. And the arrowheads that were said to be found in one of the, I believe, the pre-dynastic pharaoh's tombs, if not Narmer's tomb, Associated with Freya, one of Vanir. Freya is said to be one of Vanir. Alfar, Vanir are said to be connected to this. Okay. I think it says a caring. Okay, it's a poetic metaphor for the sun. It calls it Alfrul, which is the elf sun disk. So we have the connection to the sun, we have the arrows, we have Cupid, we have Isis as a flying being, right? Think about an arrow, shoot down the angel with an arrow, okay? Which can also be seen as martial artists working the angles, right? Shoot him with an arrow, poisoned arrows, fume him, do things that keep this being that seems to move with grace like a hawk, right? This angel working the angles, moving with grace like a hawk, was fast. Shoot them down before they get close and strike you down, right? There's a lot of parallels, unavoidable truths in that, facts. All right, Volander, one of the elves, his most prominent deed is to rape Bovidar, I believe, Bovikar. Okay, so Volander is one of the elves in one of these stories. Elves are said to having sexual threats. Think about the original story of Sleeping Beauty, where a prince rapes her in her sleep. Okay, Margaretha Luther, believed by Martin Luther to have been inflicted by elves. I believe Martin Luther was part of the German, he was basically the guy who started the Protestant movement, right? Lutheranism, and the German princes, right? Think about the princes of Amen, who helped Amen rise to power, the princes of Thebes, okay? So nightmare, right? They compared it to the mare. I went over that earlier. I'm not going to do, I'm running out of time, so let's just keep going. Okay, 5-point star pointed up is an elf cross. Think about the flag. Think about the occult. Think about, a pentagram, a 5-point star with a circle, which is called the circle of protection around it. Now think about the ring of power, Saturn, role reversal, right? Switching things around. That martial artist who's trying to save everyone, he's a danger to himself and others. Not the pharmaceutical companies that kill 500,000 people a year in Western countries alone with psychiatric medication alone. Not these people who are causing diseases in the tradition of these fairy tale kind of satanic beings, right? Scandinavian legends, elves cause skin rashes and worse. Skin rashes are cured by a handy pair of bellis. They said a blow, a counter blow is how they described it. Whatever bellis is. Problem, solution, application, right? They give you these diseases and they have the cures. And that's how they force people to do things their way. And to this day, we see that. We see that with AIDS, right? Magic Johnson. We see that with the various, expensive procedures and people who can give you discounts and do them for free. Doctors that work for free, right? Freemasons, right? We will help you for free address this problem that we've caused if you do it our way and you become our sex slave and so on and help us build, right? And that goes on, it goes back to the generational Satanists and different groups that are literally controlling reproduction and screening out people who don't do things their way, which creates more Satanists, is why people are indifferent and so on. They're conditioned to be that way. So going on, I'm running out of time. Let me just shoot through this. Skag Grapor, a kind of petroglyph, scale grapar, a kind of petroglyph pictogram on a rock found in Scandinavia, right? Another connection to Egypt, right? Pictograph, okay? We're known as, of course, that's not the only place, hieroglyph, petroglyph, pictogram, on a rock found in Scandinavia. We're known as Alfkvarnar, elven mills, because it was believed elves had used them, okay? And think about the mills, right? The sawmill and what have you. One could appease elves by offering them a treat, probably butter, placed on an elven mill. Now, think about the eagle, right backwards, El Gay. Now, what is butter used from? Let's see. Before they had Vaseline, what would these gay people use, okay? And, of course, we see a connection between the elves and the Jews in Tel Aviv pushing the worldwide gay movement. The Castro and so on, the liberals, gay Jews disproportionately vote liberal, for better or worse. Moving on. Popular culture, skilled archers, song, superhuman strength, nature, art, pointed ears, okay? And actually, there are elves, Masons and elves have a connection. And there are people that look like elves in my family tree, and I posted at least one of their pictures, okay? So it's like we're all related to them, and there's this internal struggle inside of us, and we have to transform into pure light, and not to accept this new age bitch shit and be coerced and so on into accepting it. Wisdom is application, right? It is the discernment and the application together. It is not, knowledge and cunning and so on. It is not wise, right? So, people are, and one could say the highest form of wisdom is avoiding the greatest application of wisdom is the use of it to keep people with more worldly knowledge from controlling you. And one can say that only the martial artists are wise. It forces you to be a martial artist. Think about mind, body, and soul. Cultivate it with the Sun Temple perspective, and to avoid being controlled by knowledge and be ready to die in a true spirit of God. So anyway, the elves are used in popular culture to define racial others and influence gender norms. Their words, not mine. Japan, the closest comparison is the yokai. They have magical abilities, aka the ayakashi. Kashu, a possible wordplay. Okay, the monoki, or manono, malevolent, mischievous, and they also said to bring good fortune. Think about fortune cookies. Okay, the Khmer, in Cambodia. Think about the Khmer Rouge, the communist movement, and how it connects to communism and Jews and so on. They had the Merim Kong veal, guarding animals. Okay, so let's just leave it there. I want you to think about these connections and how absurd it is to say, well, this guy's talking about elves and so on. When people are dressing in drag and people are, see themselves in movies, right? Anakin Skywalker, the guy who played Anakin Skywalker, is said to have kept seeing himself as Darth Vader everywhere he goes because people see him that way and it fed into it, right? And, they created the appropriate psychological construct, the caricatures, cartoons mixed in the movies, blurring the line, the different groups on Facebook, the single groups that are designed to inject images of openly gay guys, present them as straight at times. They're looking for wives, foreign gays, different forms of gays, right? Wisdom, right? Idion and Eidos, form and to see, okay? So obviously we're seeing that there's different forms, and your ability to see these forms and understand the idea and its various forms and applications, and to address these applications. This is what sparring is, right? You're going to apply these things in different ways, variations of different strikes, and you're going to try to block them. So to say, well, your form is off is stupid. There's various forms. If it gets the job done, it gets the job done. If you can stab somebody with it, it's applicable. It's spirit, the spirit, okay? Horror is the face, the Jew is the jaw, the mouth of God. Ra says, Jesus, right? Remember the chi ro? I went into that, See hero is another way to look at it. This is the idea of the hero in that symbol. The cross was said to be on the sun, and Constantine in his battle. Kingdom, can damn, condemn, king damn. Well, I'm out of time.